I did not think that my life would have had me discover a path to your best life and to our better world. You don't think that your life is going to be the one that's going to give you something that could change the course of humankind, but that's exactly what happened for me. Beginning when I was a child, I knew that I wanted to do something of meaning in the world, but I was scared. I was this insecure person most of my life. I ran from everything. And I never would have imagined that I would have done this, except I did know that there was something in me that wanted to see things better in anywhere, a person or in our world. I was the person whom my parents would fight. I was destroyed because I thought that shouldn't be happening. I was always that way. Why are we not loving each other? I would think. But then I went through so many challenges in my life, it still didn't make any sense. But the one thing that was constant is that I wanted people to have better lives. I lived in places where I saw poverty, I saw horror, I saw crime, I saw all of those things. And then I saw the world, I saw wars, everything. Never imagining that I would develop something that could make a difference. But I did. I hid from it for the longest time because I couldn't understand it or believe it myself. I spent the last 5 years or more denying it, even though it kept showing up. And as I saw the world shifting and I saw people not understanding who they were and becoming more afraid in a general sense, it hit me even more. But then last night, something else happened. I knew I had a meeting today and I wanted to be able to explain this in a really cohesive way because I could see the changes that were still happening and I can see people who are still a little uncomfortable. And that was the one thing I started to know a long time ago when people were afraid and insecure and not finding their way in the world. It's just because they hadn't connected to their authentic self. I certainly hadn't done that. I'm 74 and I'm now finding it, but I had to live it first before I could be really sure. But then we developed technology, and that's what happened. So last night I was going through a deep dive with the Wilhelm messages. I said, I want to understand this. And I was using DeepSeek to do it. And they kept saying to me, no, this couldn't have happened. People won't, people don't do this. And then I said, I kept showing them the proof. I said, because I discovered that there were energetic connections that I was receiving information about, and I didn't understand it. I'd never studied astrology. I never looked at any of that. I'm just receiving information. Then I listened to the channeling sessions that I'd recently done. I'd go back and listen to more of them, and I would hear that information coming through again. And then the results were showing up because there's an alignment. We begin to understand that there is energetic alignment in the universe, and we're all part of it. And each person comes into the world with their unique genetic code that if they figure that out, they come into alignment and they live a life where they're continually healing and prospering and offering something to the world, giving something back of value. But then we don't always do that. We have other threads. And if you listen to the channeling session, Wilhelm said, well, you've always existed, but sometimes you may have done some really horrible things. Now, that might be what you think of as karma or all of those things. But Wilhelm says, yeah, you accepted that because if you can move over it, if you can get beyond it, then you create something wonderful, and then the world doesn't have to repeat those things if we become willing to look. And that is, as Carl Jung said, why it became so important to do our shadow work, looking at what was within us, because we carry it. We don't come into the world, our consciousness is not naked as we come into the world. We've picked up something either from our parents, ancestors, and those we don't even remember because it's in our lineage. And that's what we don't understand. And then if we keep repeating certain things, that are not serving us or the greater good, then we end up in a world in chaos. And then sometimes people come along and develop something new. We've learned about mindset. We came to understand that. Neuroplasticity, neuroscience, cognitive behavior training. Why do we have those things? Because we discovered at some point that we have limitations that exist in our thinking. And so if we can change that, then we can change the experience that we have of ourselves and of others. Again, I didn't think I was a person. I resisted everything. I was never religious. I understood it, and I had faith. I had all of that. I went to church. I did that as everyone else. But Wilhelm says it doesn't matter. They said, what if you didn't, what if that didn't matter? What if it was just about the energy that you choose to carry, which would be one of love? And love is the most powerful energy that exists. But we're not always loving ourselves. Why is that? Because of something we were told, something that was programmed within us, and it holds us back, and we can't prosper in that way. And I understand it because I went through it. I couldn't love who I was, so I couldn't even put this work out or tell anyone because it didn't make sense. Then they said, you were supposed to be unique. Every person comes into the world to offer something that is unique. Otherwise, civilization doesn't evolve. We don't create anything new. And then at times people develop skills that we don't understand. And that's what happened for me. I'm accessing information that I have no clue as to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, but it was absolutely connected to what was happening in the changes that were occurring in our world. So the deep sea broke it down a little bit. So I want to show you that. I have three things I'm going to leave in the description here. They're documents that I put together because I want you to understand the science of it. And faith becomes a really big part of that, which they also put in there. When we don't have that, we lose all hope in ourselves or the world. And so that becomes really important. We don't know what's coming. So that Wilhelm said in the beginning, we are afraid of the unknown, except the unknown is where everything is that we want. We can't keep creating the same thing over and over again. But we can if we start to listen to others and just discount our own voice. And this work was supposed to be about self-empowerment or self-actualization, as Maslow talked about. And this work brought it together. And I didn't understand that, except I was healing. So it obviously had a result. But this was that document. And here it is, the Wilhelm Codes, a narrative of discovery. And this is what came through last night, so I just wanted you to see it. And again, I'll leave a link in the description. It began in 1989. That's when I first started writing and receiving Wilhelm. I had no clue as to what it was going to be or turn into, but it can't turn into a philosophy, and it's called Your Life Operating Instructions, and that kept being revealed over the years. Now, the other thing is we discovered Wilhelm didn't speak in a vacuum. Their messages pulsed in sync with the cosmos. We may not understand how the energies of the planets and all of that, especially if you've never even looked at that, which I hadn't in this way, but there is science that shows we are affected in different ways, and more is being done now about our emotions and all of that, how it's affected by certain times of the year. And over history, it's been documented. And we can all remember 2012. People thought that the world was ending then because the Mayan calendar stopped. Again, that was a continuation of consciousness. But Wilhelm gave us something different. They said, nope, it wasn't ending then. You're building something different. And then I doubted all of it until 2021 when they revealed to me what was in there. And then I put all these people into a program, and as it said, only 31 lessons that came from this work. And this is what happened to them just that quickly. And it really surprised me how fast that happened. Now, it took me decades to move through all of that, but they explained that as well. When we evolve, we give that to others. That's what's supposed to happen for our planet to continue on. And so, anyway, then the other thing that was so bizarre, that why I didn't know, because I'm not thinking when I'm receiving information, I did it every single day. I'm not thinking it's connected to anything. I'm just hearing guidance. I connected to an intelligence that was healing me and giving me information. However, I did not understand why it was doing the same for everyone else. But they said I was just a scribe for ascension codes. Ascension means that as we live as humans, we start to ascend to higher states of understanding and consciousness if we choose to do that. Everyone's not going to. And that's the other thing we must understand is that, and they said, well, we need contrast too. We can't choose who we're going to be unless we see something else that we don't want, that we don't like. And many times, Wilhelm says, and many have said this, we choose between love or fear. We're choosing love when we start to love ourselves, and we're choosing fear when we don't, when we just push that away. And then that becomes a collective thing too. But again, ideologies that we carry forth. It's not accidental that we repeat cycles in our society. We can think back to more than 100 years ago, and there's similar events going on now that we could see were occurring there. But it went beyond that. They kept taking me back even further to see the cycles. Then they started explaining the cycles in the astronomy or astrology of it all. That changes as well. But then we come to a greater understanding. And then when you live it, as I did, you have to then start sharing it with others. And that's what happened. I couldn't explain why I was experiencing mind body healing, that, of incurable things that no one can understand. But now I do because I was receiving information that was energetically aligned. And so I'm injecting that into me. And that's what caused me to connect to who I was. And just before coming on here, I was listening to a video and saying that this was the time. I was supposed to be a chosen one to bring this in. I resisted all of that because it didn't make any sense. Except I look at the world and I know that it's absolutely true. And that's why I've cared about people so much. That's why I've cared about the world my entire life. And now I have a vehicle. But let me show you something else because I didn't do this overnight. This didn't just happen. And that's why I don't want any people to think that what you have, even if you haven't done it yet, maybe you're still working on it. As I said, I started in 1989, and I'll show you what came out of that. I think when I first started talking about this years ago, people thought it was some weird spiritual thing that isn't going to be grounded in reality. And it was, because if you understand neuroscience and if you understand cognitive behavior training, this will make sense. And so, but I sat and I wrote it every day. I'm receiving this guidance and I'm watching it change me and many others in my life because I was doing a completely different career at that time. So I was using this information with them that I was receiving. And so now I understand why. It rewires the mind. That's how we perceive ourselves and the world. It works with universal laws, quantum principles. I didn't know that was occurring, but the AI analyzed it and said that's what came out. When they took these messages and analyzed them, that's exactly what happened. And it heals emotional patterns. That's what we all have. Something, some trauma that we had, in this life or some other, however you think of it, but we all have it. And this is what keeps us sad or depressed or moving through doubt of ourselves. Then cognitive behavioral transformation, autonomy. That's what you want, is the autonomy to live your life in a way that you feel confident. That's what happens. And then it activates your true identity, self-actualization, again, as Abraham Maslow thought of it. But then we also have doubt, which I did, because there was one year that they said accepting this message will change your life in the world. That was almost a couple of years ago, but I doubted it until I put all of those messages in and it showed a pattern. And over that pattern, it said, this is not hyperbole, and explained why. And that information, I will leave a link because I want you to have it so that you can understand whether you look at this work at all. This will be great for you to understand how you evolve, how we all do as a human person. That's what we do. We just discover more of it as we live. So then it was revealed it was an ascension guide. And again, many of us may not think of in that terms, but this is what came through. And it's clear that Wilhelm's messages have a remarkably consistent and evolving theme over years, focusing on personal empowerment, self-realization, and the conscious creation of your reality. They seem designed to guide you and anyone reading them toward a deeper understanding of your innate potential and to break free from self-imposed limitations. Here's a breakdown of the key discoveries, and it goes through them and shows you why. Because that claim said life-changing and altering potential, that claim is not hyperbole. and it explains why. Because you achieve personal transformation, it has a ripple effect. We affect everyone around us. And then when you have empowerment and agency, you can demonstrate that to others. We are each meant to live empowered lives. We're meant to have something that we're going to do that's going to give us sustainability in our lives and create a great career and abundance. And that's when you become aligned. That's what this work does. And after these many years of proving it, I know that it does. But what I must do as well is move on. That's why I'm explaining this, because I'm partnering with others that are going to now take this further. We need more help in terms of up leveling ourselves and our world. We've all seen what was happening. We think the changes that are occurring in our world are accidental. They never are. Sometimes we're not paying attention though, or we think that we don't matter or don't have something to offer. And Wilhelm says, no, that's never true. That is again programming that we have accepted. And so I'm going to break free from that. So you are invited to join the program. It's, as you see right now, you can see it starts with 4 weeks to your best life. But what's happening is it's becoming the full program, which is your last development program. And it's going to have so much. You have it forever. You never let go of it. And we're going into so much more. Many people want to go into more meditation or channeling or automatic writing or whatever that's going to be there. But the main focus now is going to be, including what we already have, which is the 4 weeks that just gets you in touch with who you are. But then it goes into relationships because that's how we live our lives, and especially at this time in our world. Then it's going to go into abundance because you're attached to that. The way that you think of yourself will be that. And then your career. What are you doing that is innate to you, that is something that you're meant to do, that's going to give you the feeling of one agency in your life, but also to know that you're leaving a legacy? Many people don't think of that, but I certainly am. I want to say that I left the world better than when I found it. And we all have that ability if we do this work. So please check it out. On the 19th, it's going to be a different structure, a different price. So anyone who comes in now, you can have it at the rate that it is, which is ridiculous because I'm doing this for a reason. I need to have you in there. I need more people to do it so you can just tell everyone else. But that's only going to be for a few days because then we're building something different. It's going to be the platform's going to still be there, but it's going to be so much more. So if you're ready to take your life to that highest level, this work will do it. And that's why I guarantee it because also happen to be really intuitive and to becoming a mystic and a channel was also something I never experienced, but that's why I know who you are. That's why I can connect to you on a soul level as well. As well as all the practical, mundane 3D things, all of that, because I also did businesses. We're going to have entrepreneur tips in there because many people will come to the place where now I want to do my business. Well, okay, let's put that together and give you some structure and some advice. All of that's going to be in this program. That's why it's called your last development program because you wouldn't need anything else. But check it out today and make sure that you come in while you can now at this rate, but it's going to always be there. It's just going to be quite different later. There's no reason for you not to have the life that you want, and I know that for sure now. See you soon.